Hi guys, this is Jordan here from Team Eternal Hope, and I'm bringing you my Kagero deck profile. This is my Legend Cross deck profile. Entered this in a tournament a couple of weeks back. I'm only now doing a deck profile because it's taken me forever to do one. I keep trying to do it and it keeps running out of memory on my phone and whatnot. But yeah, like I was saying, I entered this in a tournament a couple of weeks back. It's a 10-man tournament. I come second, beating Altmar Royal Paladins twice in a row, beating Token Rambu, and beating Nightmare Dolls. I lost to Grand Blue twice in a row in Swiss and in the finals. The deck's really fun to play and it's really strong. There's still something missing in it though, but I'm not entirely sure what it is. But you know, the deck's still perfectly fine. So let's get back down into it. We have, as our starter, we have Lizard Hero Undu. What he does is Generation Break 1, Counterblast 1, move him to Soul, search your deck for an Overlord and add it to your hand. So basically it's any of your grade 3s. I was running Red Pulse Draco Kid as my starter originally, but this guy seems better. He's not as he's slower than Red Pulse because he's Generation Break, but he gives you a guaranteed grade 3. So like, if you're on the Legend, you can then search with his skill for a grade 3, then ditch it for Legend skill. So we have 3 the cross, all SP. Thank you to my teammate James for this. He's in here because he's grade 3 Flame Dragon and he's very strong. He legions with Dragonic Overlord the End. What he does, on Legion, search your deck for either a copy of himself or a copy of the End and add it to your hand. When this unit attacks, if it does not hit, counterblast 1, discard a copy of the Cross and destroy 2 of your opponent's rearguards, whether that be the 2 front row, 1 back, 1 front, or 2 back, or whatever combination you want really. As I said, it's a grade 3 Flame Dragon. So it helps with striding, helps with the Legend skill, and you can search it out with the Legend skill. 3 the End, sorry. All SP as well. I'm trying to max rarity out my deck. What he does is he's the Legion mate for the cross, so you kind of have to play him. He's Counterblast 2. When the attack hits, discard a copy of himself and you can restand. You can do his skill even if you're in Legion. Plus he's a grade 3 Flame Dragon, so you can search him out with the Legend and discard him for the Legend skill and whatnot. Last of the grade 3s we have the 2 Dragonic Overlord the Edgend, both foil. When he's placed on Vanguard, you can Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck for a Flame Dragon and add it to your hand. So he's your toolbox card. He's one of your best searches in the deck and whatnot. I'm not a fan of the Blade Master build. I feel it's too inconsistent. I mean, it's still a very good deck, don't get me wrong, but I don't feel it's as consistent as the Legend deck or the Cross build. Solely for the fact that outside of Lava Flow Dragon, everything else pretty much searches for Overlord stuff, such as the starter and whatnot. So, but that's just me. What he does is, like I said, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, search for grade 3, or Flame Dragon from the top 5. Generation Break 2, Counterblast 1, discard a grade 3 Flame Dragon from your hand. He gains grade +1, plus 15,000 power, and drive check +1, so essentially he becomes a stride. And he also gains a new skill, which is choose 3 cards from your hand. If it attacks a rear guard, you may pay the cost. If you do, stand this unit. So you attack a rear guard, regardless of whether it hit or not, you discard 3, restand, and then you can attack the Vanguard if you want to, or you could attack the other rear guard depending on the situation you're in, but I don't know why you'd do that. It's a very, very strong card. I mean, most of the time you'd go into him as your finisher, but I feel perfectly fine riding him as my first ride. I mean, the deck doesn't slow down or anything depending on whichever one you ride first. I mean, there was a couple of games over the weekend where I rode the End and was still like not behind or anything. I mean, I wasn't doing as well as what I would do if I had, let's say, the Cross or the Legend, but the deck didn't seem to slow down or anything like that because I could still stride and whatnot. So the deck's fine, whichever one you ride anyway. Onto the grade 2s, we have the 4 Dragonic Burnout. Very good card. Is pre-generation break as well, so he works before you stride and whatnot. Soul Blast 1. Put a copy of an Overlord from your drop zone to the bottom of the deck. If you do, pay the cost, retire one of your opponent's rearguards. I don't particularly want to run 4. I mean, I could put another Berserk Lord in here, but I don't really want to. I feel 3 is more than enough. But once I get around to building the Great build, I only need one more Legion Rare Neo Flame. I will probably cut this down. I will cut this down to 3 or maybe even 2, but we'll see how it goes. But he's a very good grade 2. Like, he helps with like the swarmy decks and stuff that your opponent, if your opponent's playing the swarm game. 4 of probably the best grade 2 in the deck. Emperor Dragon Knight Nihalam. What he does is Generation Break 1. If he attacks and you have an Overlord Vanguard, he gains plus 2,000 power. Each time your grade 4 or greater Vanguard attacks, he gains plus 5,000 power. So if you're using the Legend skill, you use an Ace, he gets plus 10k because you're attacking twice essentially. So he becomes a 21k by himself, so he's hitting numbers without boosts. So basically if you have boosts and stuff, you'd call him behind your 9k rearguards and whatnot. But just because he hits 21k, which is a pretty big boundary by himself, it's also a 15k guard. Next we have the last of the grade 2s. We have 3 Berserk Lord Dragon. Probably one of my favourite cards in the deck, like out of all of them. He's Generation Break 1. Each time your grade 4 or greater Vanguard attacks, you may counterblast 1. Retire a grade 2 or lower card on your opponent's side of the board. So if you have 2 of this guy, you can counterblast 2 each time your Vanguard attacks and retires 2 of your opponent's rearguards. So he's very good clearance and whatnot. I mean, even if you only have the 1, you can still retire 2. If you have the Legend, you can attack 1 rearguard in the front row and then use his skill to retire the other one. And then if your opponent guards that guard, when you attack the Vanguard, you could potentially retire the other one if you really want to. But he's very good for retiring your opponent's board and clearing the board and making your opponent use cards from their hand to refill it and whatnot. On to the grade 1s, we have 4 Protect Orc Dragon. You can run, say, Buri or whatnot, but I personally feel that this is the best perfect guard for this deck. I mean, you could even run the Seal Dragon ones, because they're Flame Dragons as well. But these are the damage on flip ones. They're also Flame Dragons, so you can search them out with the Legend skill and whatnot. So there's not much else to say about them, really. 4 Lizard General Conroe. Probably one of the best grade 1s in this entire deck. When it's placed on rearguard, reveal a grade 3 from your hand, search your deck for an Overlord, and add it to your hand, and then discard a card. While it's on rearguard, retire this unit, select your Overlord, Vanguard. Each time it attacks, you may countercharge 2. So if you have him on the board, if you've retired him, you've got Berserk Lord, and you have no counterblasts, you can attack, countercharge 2, use Berserk Lord's skill to then counterblast 1 to retire a guy, and then again you can attack with your Vanguard, use Berserk Lord's skill to counterblast 1, and then use his skill to counterblast 2, so you've got 2 counterblasts ready for next turn and whatnot. Plus, he helps you, say, if you have, say, a Neo Flame in your hand, or Burnout in your hand, and you have, say, a Dragonic over at the end in your hand, but you want, say, the Legend, you could call him, discard the end, or reveal the end, add Legend to your hand, discard the end, and the next turn ride a grade 2, then call Burnout, put that end back to the bottom of the deck and retire a guy. So he helps with your plays with like that, he helps with Burnout plays and stuff like that. 4 Lava Flow Dragon. Unfortunately I only have the 1 signed, I'm looking for 3 more. He's the stride fodder of the deck, not much else to say. He's a Flame Dragon, so you can search him out. Some people only play 3, I like playing 4. I might cut it down to 3, I'm not sure, but 4 seems perfectly fine. he gives you options. Say if you're sitting on the legend and you have him in your hand plus a grade 3, you could either stride or use the legend skill, you know, depending on the situation you're in, but he gives you options. Last of the grade 1s, we have 2 Dragon Monk Gojo. I really like this card in here. He actually got me out of a lot of tight spots. If you opened up with, say, 2 grade 1, 2 grade 3, sorry, and a burnout and another grade 2 or something, ride him, use his skill, discard the grade, another grade 3, draw a card, and then turn 2, ride the grade 2 called burnout, and go from there. He's a very good first turn ride if your hand, like, he helps fix your hand, he helps fill your board, fill your drop zone, sorry, for stride or legion and stuff like that. So a lot of people play Calamity Tower Wyvern, but with this deck now, Calamity Tower is only really worth it if you're like re-legioning every turn. But with this deck, you don't really re-legion every turn. If best, you legion once and then ride the legend and win with the legend. So onto the triggers. We play 8 critical triggers, all Flame Dragon. You need to play Flame Dragon triggers in this deck. 4 Gatling Claw Dragon. I would probably play 12 crit in this deck, but Gatling Claw Dragon's just too good not to play, really. Counterblast 1, move him to Soul, retire a grade 0, so it helps get rid of your opponent's Generation Break starters, such as Shining Knight Milius and whatnot like that. Plus he's a Flame Dragon, so you search him out of the legend. Now we come on to the most important trigger in the deck, 4 heal triggers. In this deck you must play Flame Dragon heal triggers, just because of the G guards and whatnot now we have, because he is a Flame Dragon, so they're a lot more essential now. Onto the G zone, we have 2 Vortex Desire. I'm not sure if I want to pick up a Mustafa or anything like that. I'm perfectly happy running the Vortex Desires, but what he does is when he attacks, Persona flip him, or choose a card in your G zone and flip it face up, and if the attack hits, you destroy rearguard, grade 2 or less rearguards on your opponent's side equal to the number of Flame Dragons on your vanguard. So if you haven't Legion, he retires 2. If you are Legion, he retires 3. But, you know, it's 2, fair enough. The way I play him now, and we've got the 16 G zone, if I attack with him and I haven't gone into Sea Breeze, I'll flip the Sea Breeze over, just to give me the ability to potentially use my other Vortex Desire later on. But he's instant GB2 on your first stride, which is always nice. Next we have the 4 Transcendence Divine Dragon Nouvelle Veil Express. Very powerful card. I don't feel it's as powerful as what it was before G Guardians came out, or at least that's what I've heard people say, and I tend to agree with them. But G Guardians, I think, only give you at least a 20k boost, 20k guard if certain criteria have been met. So if you attack with him with no boost, he's still 26k, and your opponents, if they G guard, that's only 31k if they get the additional 5k boost, which is still only 1 to pass. Plus you're getting a triple drive from this guy, so the chances of you getting a trigger are fairly high. So I still think he's an extremely powerful card. I mean, obviously, like I said, he's not as strong now that G Guardians are out, but I still feel he's really strong. Next up we have 2 Root Flare. Some people are playing for the Ace instead of Root Flare. I'm tempted to do that, but I like Root Flare. He gives you the ability to retire those bothersome columns if your opponent's, say, got a resist guy in the back row or something and you can't get rid of it. Go to the Root Flare, choose the guy in the front row, then that retires the whole column. But we get a new guy in set 7, which I believe is the guy that goes with Root Flare, and plus we get the G Guard, which retires your opponent's whole back row. So Root Flare may be taking out, but I'm not sure yet. It depends on the way I want to take the G Zone. We have the 2 Ace, self-explanatory. Counterblast 2, discard or Persona flip himself. He gets drive minus 1 and when he attacks, you discard an Overlord plus himself, or plus another card, sorry, and he restands. So it's 2 attacks, so it gets your Nahalam and whatnot up to 21k. It's very strong, because it forces your opponents to say use 2 G guards or 2 perfect guards or whatever, so I can see why people run 2. And like I said, I probably would be tempted to put this up to 2, but we'll see how it goes once set 7 comes out. We have the 1 Blizzer. Blizzer I feel is really strong now. Counter +1, flip a guy from your G zone, and he gains plus 5k for each face up G unit in your G zone. That includes Generation Guard and whatnot. A lot of people don't run him in Kagero, I can see why basically. I mean, I'm tempted to take him out myself, but I really like him in here. Ridiculously overpowered card. We have the 1 Air Element Seabreeze. What he does is counter +2. In your G zone, choose a card from your hand, discard it. If you have a grade 3 Vanguard and there was no grade 2 placed on your opponent's Vanguard in the previous turn, so if your opponents say grade stuck or whatnot, then this card just punishes them. You can stride this guy from your G zone as if you have no cards face up in your G zone, which if you're riding this guy you won't, because you won't be able to G guard or anything because your opponent doesn't have a grade 3 or anything. So it gets around the grade 2 game that people like to play these days. This is going to be the card that people are going to be thinking, do they have this in their G zone? And most people will. So we have 2 of the Flame Emperor Dragon King Asli Orb Dragon or whatever it is. This is the Kagero G Guard from Fighters Collection. When it's placed on Guardian Circle, if the number of opponents, the rear guard your opponent has is 4 or less, he gains plus 5k shield. So he's 20k, which most of the time your opponent's going to have less than 5 rear guards. I mean, if you're playing Berserk board and whatnot, you're going to retire pretty much the whole board. So it seems pretty good. And last of the deck, we have the 2 Dark Element Dismal. This card is going to be played in a lot of decks for a while. It's very good. It has resist, so it gets around Depolice and stuff like that. Plus, it gives one of your rear guards resist. So, you know, if you've got a rear guard that can help you win the game next turn or whatnot, you'll go into him, be like, yeah, I'll guard. Sure, if he may not have enough guard to do it, you can add more onto it. But, you know, it's just protection, and it's a 15k shield, so it's really good. So that was my Legends cross deck profile. Hope you guys liked it. Its worst matchup is probably Nightmare Dolls and whatnot, because you'd have to like go into Burnout, Root Flare and whatnot to get rid of the columns. I mean, you can retire stuff like the grade 1s that restand every time Alice goes into the Soul and whatnot. But I mean, once we get Griffin and whatnot, the retire factor for this deck is just going even higher up. So that's the deck, guys. Hope you liked it. See you around.